Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Pearls and Politics Podcast, where we are polished and poised for greatness and impact. My name is Kahala, and I'm your host. Thank you so much for joining us today as we interview our very first Olympian here on Pearls and Politics Podcast. We are so excited to welcome Arthur Flash Johnson.
Thank you. Thank you, Kahala.
Hello, Mr. Johnson. How are you? Or should I say Coach Johnson?
Well, Coach is good. Coach is, I've gotten used to the name of Coach after all these years. It is great to be here. I am definitely elated to be here. So it's certainly an exciting time for sure.
Awesome. Well, we are excited to have you. We have never had an Olympian here on Pearls and Politics Podcast, and we love all things sports, and we love all things East St. Louis, and we love people. So we are so happy to have you today. So let's get into it.
My pleasure. My honor. My pleasure, for sure.
Please tell us all about Arthur Flash Johnson.
Well, Arthur Flash Johnson is a kid, before he was Arthur Flash Johnson, nicknamed Gobble. And I didn't even expect to say that, but that was my nickname, Gobble. I walked the streets of East St. Louis, and to make a long story short, boxing was introduced to me at first, perhaps around 9 or 10. And it was shortly after that I would start competing, start boxing at age 12. But where I grew up was the first place I remember living in East St. Louis, Illinois, was on Missouri Avenue. And I still remember the address to this day. It was 1705. And from there, we moved around in the area, in the community. And I ended up being on Bond Avenue for the most memorable part of my young life, where I went to Lincoln High School, which was right across the street from the
Fellow
projects.
Tiger, that's right.
From the projects, and so it was from there that the boxing career started to take form. And again, to make a long story short, I competed as an amateur, from an amateur. And went to, of course, the Olympics. Was in 1988. I was a part of one of the most exciting United States boxing team in history, and part of that team was we brought home a great amount of medals, and I advanced to round 16 in the Olympics. But prior to that, I, as an amateur fighter, I mounted more national titles than anyone in the history of the boxing game did. And so I think the number title was 12. And it was an exciting point from there, winning a gold medal in the Goodwill Games, and just a amount of things that even at this point in my life, as you move forward, memory becomes a little cloudy, but without question, the national titles, that record that I've known has stand and still stands to this day, some 30-some years ago when it was set. So boxing has really been good to me, and I've had the pleasure of just meeting a lot of the folks that I looked up to. The Sugar Ray Leonards, the Muhammad Ali's. In fact, Ali was a part. I came from that lineage, Ali lineage, where Mr. Angelo Dundee was my manager. And if anyone know anything about boxing, then they know who that is. Well, he worked with George Foreman. He worked with, as I mentioned, Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard, and just a load of others. And the list goes on and on. And I think I probably was the last big name that he had. And I retired in 2003, would have been my last boxing match. But so that's kind of basically, in short form, the story, as I mentioned, winning a total of 4 world titles, 3 as a pro, 1 as an amateur. And in addition to that, there's other things attached to me like music and things like that. And I've always loved music, and I've had the pleasure of, doing a few successful songs that has one which it's called "Time Is Changing" has amounted over 500,000 streams. So it's just been a real good thing when you really think about it. The doors that boxing opened, and for some, for some would say, well, maybe he's a boxer just trying to do it. So I like to not think of myself as trying to do something.
Oh no, you did that.
so actually doing it. So that's a little bit about Arthur. That's a little bit about Arthur Johnson. Of course, I got the name Arthur Flash from competing in the Olympic, the Goodwill Games. I say the Goodwill Games, and the people gave me the name. They gave me the name Flash, and it just kind of stuck with me. And to this day, a lot of the kids say, Coach Arthur, Coach Flash. So that's the name that stuck with me. I'm very thankful for a good nickname. And so, why would they call you Flash? Well, I think the speed of my hands would probably attribute to that.
I was going to say that's probably quite clear. You can think of why a boxer would be Flash, and I can only imagine that you had, you had them hands. You had them hands, so that's awesome. But you also have, in addition to a wonderful boxing career, you have an amazing family.
Thank you.
You have an amazing family. So that's where it's kind of 2 connections that we have in terms of how we know each other.
Yes.
And that's absolutely your beautiful daughter, Arita, who is a lawyer, and she's an amazing young lawyer. Yeah. And so that's how I knew that you were a boxing coach and that you were into boxing, because everybody who knows Arita knows her daddy, right? And so that's when I reached out to you. I got your information and reached out to you in terms of helping my son during that period. Yes. And so that's kind of how we know each other. And then we've remained connected kind of through social media. And I was like, oh my goodness, it would be so wonderful to have, I want to say Mr. Johnson, because that's the way it's that, but Coach Johnson on the podcast, because so many people love boxing, right?
Yes,
and then we love Olympians and, the work ethic and everything that it takes to get to where you are and the heights that you have reached. And so to have you come on and share with our listening and viewing audience, your life, your story, and what you're doing now. So kind of shift us or pivot us from your retirement into what you're doing now.
Well, and I might have to pivot just a little bit past 203 because the foundation was established in 201. Okay. So in 201, we started doing these amateur boxing shows, my wife and I, and we did this because we wanted to give back to our community. And I thought that would be a nice way to start it. And so when we started it, we had the idea. We had the ideal that someday we can make this a really big thing. We could really help a lot of the kids in the community, and from that, that's exactly what happened. It grew. God just, breathed on it, and I could not tell you how many kids that we've worked with over the years. There's been just hundreds upon hundreds, perhaps thousands, that we've had the pleasure of working with and directing their pathway and giving them some positive outlets. And so that's the thing that basically, started it all, was when right before I retired, we started that foundation in 2001, because I knew that we were going to be giving back to our community. I had a heart desire to get back within that capacity, and so just from there, it's grown. Up to date, we've created. We were part of creating 5 Golden Glove champions, 2 world champions, and so as we continue to move forward with the organization, great things are happening. We also host what is called like a round table through our program. We take time out where we have a round table. We really want to discuss what's on their mind and how they can better do things that they desire to do in terms of just moving forward in life, period. Because boxing is one of those things where there's not 100% guaranteed with anything, of course, in boxing, especially that. Less than a small percentage makes it. And when we talk about small percentage, that small percentage is more like 1%. And that's for any kid who does sports, period. Less than 1% actually make it to the top. And so, but if we can take life's experiences and give them the hope that they need through those experiences, well, then boxing will serve its purpose, because we certainly do it through the platform of boxing.
Okay. Yeah. So I won't even ask why a boxing gym, because you've already basically told us why, but tell us why you chose East St. Louis. Because it's easy to say, you can assume that, Kyle, because that's where he's from, but not always. So I know that you have a real reason why you chose East St. Louis. So please tell us about that.
East St. Louis is where, again, I was raised, and I had a chance to see the world from my little boy's eyes growing up. I always dreamed that I would accomplish those goals, and I think anyone who's coming from a place like East St. Louis has to have that killer desire and heart-wrenching desire to want to be the very best that they can be. And I tell kids even today, if you don't see it, I promise you, you're never going to be it. So you have to be able to see further than where you are. And so I've been fortunate to been able to do that, and so have there been many others. But East St. Louis for me is home. It really is. I could go a whole lot of places, and even to this day, there's being a gym made in my honor over in Sudan, Africa, but no matter where I've gone,
absolutely amazing.
No matter where I've gone, that's been home for me, and that is just where my heart has been parked. My heart is there, and so it's when I'm working there. It's when I'm working with those kids. It's when I am giving, I would like to say, winning advice to these kids. That's when I'm complete. That's when I'm complete, because I know I'm doing what I'm purposed to do. And there's a lot to be said about doing what you're purposed to do. When you're doing what you're purposed to do, I don't think you'll ever fall, because there is purpose for it. And these kids have learned and gained a lot from it. And my heart is really filled with that. And I hope that they can someday give back.
Absolutely. You said so many wonderful things in that, because again, people assume it's just about where you're from, and you've articulated that clearly. That's not it, because what did you say? They're paying tribute to you in places even outside of the country, and you honestly, with everything that you've done and the reputation that precedes you, you literally could do that anywhere. What you're doing in East St. Louis, you could do anywhere, but you want to give that winning advice. So again, I keep saying I'm gonna get myself a pen and a piece of paper to write down these nuggets that I get from people that I interview. But that is so wonderful that you want to give winning advice, because so many times in communities, not just East St. Louis, it can be anywhere. There are impoverished places everywhere. There's a ghetto everywhere. There's, whatever. But for you to say, I want to take what God has given me I want to take everything that I've learned and I want to give winning advice. So that's advice for you to win.
Yes.
Which in order for me to give it, there has to be a desire in me for you to win. And to know that there is a place and a space and loving people who want to see the children and the young people in that environment and environments all over, because all of your boxers are not just from East St. Louis, right?
Right. They're from the community. They're from the area. We got them from, they travel from as far as Centralia, Illinois. I mean, that's, maybe an hour and a half away, a couple of hours away. They travel from different places, St. Louis. They travel from just all around the community. And it's hard to not take it personally. And I sometimes take it personally. You're not supposed to take it personally. At least that's the advice that I love to give to other coaches when I'm doing any kind of conference or whatever. But it's hard to not take it personally. If I can tell this one story, I had this one kid who had lost his first 5 bouts. And I was so, I had got, because I wanted him to win so much that I could taste it. And my other coach, his name is Ernest Rice Bade. He kind of reminds me of this story. He said, man, at the end of that fight, he says, and the fight, that last fight that they lost, which attributed to five in a row, and he said you could see the look on your face, and he said, man, so when he came up for bout number 6, you said something to him, and I said to him, I said, you know what? I'm not supposed to take it personally, but this was personal. You're not losing anymore, okay?
That's right.
This is it. And, he set a record, tied one of the records that I set, but it didn't get any exposure because it wasn't a national tournament. But he knocked the guy out in 10 seconds. And
you meant it and he meant it. That is
yeah, I mean, he knocked the guy out in 10 seconds. And it was incredible. Simply because, when you work with a kid and you pour your all into it. A lot of times when I do go home, I am tired and I don't really maybe look like it right off the back, if you would say, if I could say it that way. But when I start to unwind, I say, oh man, I'm tired. So, because you've given everything, that you have, and
you're pouring.
You want them. You want them to be the best they can be. And when this is over with, I hopefully we've created within the framework that we've done. We've created everything we're supposed to, and the hope for me is that relationships is established with those kids and the people in the community, and perhaps maybe someday giving back, whether it's here or somewhere else, but that they do give back. That's the hope.
So we already talked about where your boxers come from.
Yes.
So you said they come from all over the region. So let us know, what are their ages and what are their levels of skill? Because obviously we want people to come, because the name of your gym is
Flash Boxing and Activity Center. Yes.
See, and the address?
The address is 1721 State Street in East St. Louis. It's the busiest street in East St. Louis. It's State Street. You can never not forget that.
That's right. So we want people to come and to bring their children or themselves, right?
Yes.
So we know where they come from, but what are the ages of the people that you train, and what are their levels of skill? Do I have to have these hands first, or can I be a beginner? Can I come?
Sure, absolutely.
Who are your boxers?
Absolutely. We start at 8 years old. 8 years old, all the way up until I've had people in their late 30s, early 40s. But we start at 8. And what we basically do is I take you through a personal training aspect first, because that's the first part of it. You want to basically go through that because that prepares you for the boxing part of it. And that very basic fundamental part of the sport is very vital to success in the sport. And so we start them off there. They could be, again, 8 years old, 9, 10, and all the way up to their 40s and 50s for the most part. And so how do we do what it is that we hope to do to get them to that success? Well, we're going to introduce them to the sport. First of all, the first basic punches in boxing is there's three of them. One is the jab, the other is the right hand, and the last one is the hook. And so we work on those things for the first few weeks, and then that just kind of catches on, and then we start adding on to it. Now the different levels, that's all a time thing. That has to do with the time that each individual puts in, which determines the levels that they eventually get to. For me, I don't allow people to compete for my gym unless they've been there for like 6 months. Now, I've had kids to do it in 3 months, but those were kids that were a little older, a little more, experienced in terms of their ability to be able to do certain things, make certain things happen within the confines of the squared circle, meaning the boxing ring. And they've been able to do that. Now, I've not had very many to compete after 3 months, but I've had a couple. But generally speaking, I'm going to work with you for about 6 months before I put you in a competition for sure.
With somebody else.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you train ladies?
I do, and I have been getting quite a few young ladies coming through. And as a matter of fact, I've got 2 Golden Glove champions who are female. And just this last week, Miss Renata Harper has won the Golden Glove. She also just won just this past week, as I just stated, in a competition that took place at the Heritage Center. Mm-hmm. She just won, and she is one that I am looking forward to taking to the national tournament, along with another one of the young men by the name of Daniel Nolan, that will be traveling to Lubbock, Texas. This is going to be actually not the first time that I've taken a kid to a national tournament, probably third time or so in our 4-year stay at this center, that we are going to be taking these kids to national tournament. And the hope behind the national tournament is to get them competing with hopes of them breaking into rankings. And when I want to say rankings, establishing themselves as someone to be considered for an Olympic team. And it's been a long time since someone made an Olympic boxing team for me, St. Louis. It's too long, way too long to.
I like that. Yeah, too long.
Way too long.
I see it in your eyes. Yeah. He's like, oh, it's been way too long. We working on it. Yeah, it's been. Right. I agree.
Right. So we want to see this happen, and again, it's all with the hope of them someday passing it on. And I often say to the kids, I say to a lot of people that probably know me, listen, if what you build dies when you die, then you built nothing. You built nothing. So you wanted to go past you. You wanted to go farther, and that excites me when I think about these kids have an opportunity. And it wasn't an easy thing to build this center. It wasn't easy to establish this template for these kids, but it's been done now. So now we move forward. Now we'll go on to the next thing.
Just expand.
Yeah. Now we're going to the next thing. And we're looking forward to making it happen. And I told them, listen, like I used to tell my kids, and you mentioned about my family, and I'm so proud of my family. I mean, my wife and I have done, I think, its best job that we.
An amazing job.
As best we could do.
An amazing job.
I love her. She's as a matter of fact, she's sitting over right there in the chair. But I love her dearly. Just a very smart woman. She worked with the federal banks for a lot of years. Of course, Rita, your friend. She's the Assistant Attorney General, State of Illinois. My other daughter works in the medical field, and my son Arthur Jr. is a big time musician. He's so big time, I don't know what to do.
I love it. I just love it.
I don't even know what else to say. But it's just to have a family of such. I'm grateful and thankful to God for that. And they, I think they take on a lot of the things that their mom and me have shared with the community.
Clearly,
and I think they share that with the community as well. So long after I'm gone, I'd hope that they can continue to move the foundation forward.
Absolutely. Your legacy, in and out of the ring will continue for a long time. I can just see it.
Thank you.
So how do we reach you? Like, if we want our child to train under Coach Flash Johnson, like, do we call? Do we stop by the gym? How do we reach you?
Yes, we. Well, let me give you this number. Actually, it's the number to the center of the Flash Boxing Activity Center. Now, you can also find us on Facebook. If you go Arthur Johnson Foundation on Facebook, and it'll bring it right up. And it might even show a lot of the things that we've done, in the community.
Find them on Facebook.
So 618-857-2740. That is the number to the center. So 618-857-2740. And we are working on having our site put back up. And so it will be the Arthur Johnson Foundation. You just go arthurjohnsonfoundation.org. So yeah, we're hoping to have the website rebooted any day now. And it will be arthurjohnsonfoundation.org. And hopefully you go on there, and we're excited about the center and what we're doing. We have our own brand. Of course, it's called Flashwear for people who need boxing equipment, who would need headgears, mouthpiece. And why should they go to any place else and get any boxing equipment when they can get it
when right you can there? Get Flashwear? Why would you do anything else? Like, absolutely. I agree 100%.
Awesome. So it's just, I'm excited. I stay excited. My manager used to say to me, because if you know, one of the things I mentioned was that I was the last name for him. I was the last big name he had, and he would say to me, "Arthur, you excite me. You excite me. I do. I get excited all over again." So when a new kid comes into my gym,
they excite you.
That excites me. It excites me. So I'm elated. I really am, and we work with a lot of the kids in the community. It's a lot of for them. I hope that we are doing it as much justice as we can. I definitely fought for the fairness for these kids to compete in this national tournament that we're going to be going to in December. We fought like heck for that. And so they're going to get an opportunity. They're going to get an opportunity to be noted by the country, noted by hopefully the world, and that's the goal. Why do something and do it half-hearted?
No, just can't do it any other way. Yeah. It has to be 100% all in, with integrity, and with passion.
Yes,
and it's so clear that you are so passionate about what you do, about your city, about your gym, and most importantly, the children and the young people and the men and women that you train, because without the passion, there's something huge missing.
Yes.
And so many people can be imperfect but passionate.
Yes.
And it can go a really long way. So the fact that you have a desire to impart, to give that winning advice, and to pour back into people and your community is just absolutely amazing, which is why I wanted you to come today and talk to us about boxing and community and family. Yes. Again, I think you have an amazing family.
Thank you.
And that is something that you're very passionate about.
Yes.
And again, you look and you see the fruit, right? And so does a person have good fruit? or do they have rotten fruit? And you and your wife have really good fruit.
Thank you.
So that speaks volumes about you.
Thank you.
And then the current generation of your fruit, and then the fruit that's going to come from them.
Thank you.
It's up from here. Like, it's clear. It's so
Yes.
clear. And so we are so happy for everything that you're doing with your boxing gym and activity center. And we want everybody to find them on Facebook. We want everyone to give them a call because, again, I think boxing, and I've never done it myself. I'm thinking about it though. It seems to be a very disciplined sport.
It is.
And without the discipline, I feel like you won't be successful. And I think so many times we as individuals lack discipline. So I have a tendency I gravitate toward my father was very disciplined. So then I married someone who was very disciplined. And Rita knows my husband very well, Judge Clay. He is very disciplined. So I'm trying to get there. And he's like disciplined in everything. And I'm like, I'm disciplined in what I want to be disciplined in. And I want to do better. So I'm like, maybe I need to start boxing or something. Maybe I need to pick up something else, like I have time, but maybe I need to pick up something else, because I think, especially for our children, in 2022, with all the things that are going on in the world and so many like distractions and so many, discipline can also be pulled into focus. And I think that's very important, because again, when you're not disciplined, you just like flapping in the wind. You're like what my line sister says, you're like a leaf blowing in the wind. And so I think everything that you're doing and everything that you're imparting into these boys and girls and men and women is really helping them become better them. Winners with your winning advice.
Listen, I'm thankful. I'm thankful that, as my wife would always put it, this is really your ministry. This is really where you work at. I mean, in addition to that, I am a minister. I am a pastor, but boxing has been used as a platform for me to be able to administer the things of value to these kids. And I'm thankful. Have there been some difficult ones? There definitely have been some difficult ones. I could think of, just right off the top of my head, one name comes to my mind. But in any event, at the end of the day, when that kid leaves and he says, "Coach, I love you," no, man, that's something. Because life itself, it's really, we can't take it for granted. And here's a kid that's said to me many times, that I'm probably gonna get hurt in these streets, and to know that I'm getting to that kid, that I'm reaching in a place where maybe those around him are haven't been able to reach, but I'm able to do it through boxing. So, and that kid says to me at the end of the day, "Coach, I love you." It's worth it. It's worth it. And so, and not only him, there's a few others, but that is the mission. All of them gonna be champions. I would hope for all of them to be champions in some way or another. Some way or another. Boxing is a tough sport, and so, as you pointed out, you have to be disciplined. You cannot do this without being disciplined. I mean, you can try, because there's been many to try to do it without discipline. It doesn't work.
No.
If you're not disciplined, you're not gonna get the success. And I've had some people to try out, and then at the point discover how disciplined it is. And they said,
not for me.
Don't know if I want to do that.
Not for me.
Right. So, but I'm thankful that those who really wanted to aspire to do something at it, that they had that chance. They were given that opportunity, and I was glad to see them pour their all into it, because that's what it'll make you do. It's so much like life. There's the knockdown. Don't we all get knocked down in life? or we have to get up. There are the knockdowns where sometimes the count is up to 7, 8, 9, but we have to get up before 10.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is so much like life. And to have those things working in that fashion, to be able to help a kid in life, period, to let them know that, hey, this is not easy. Let me add this. I just want to say this, and when I said this is not easy, I had a flashback. Just then, my manager would always say to me, Arthur, this is not easy. If it were, then everybody would be doing it. And so I passed a lot of the things on that was taught to me over the years, and there's so much of a true saying to it all. It is not easy, but one step at a time. As one friend mentioned to me the other day, Arthur, 1 inch at a time. And sometimes that's what it starts with, is 1 inch at a time. Mm-hmm. And you just keep showing up, keep showing up, keep showing up. Just like in life, keep showing up, keep showing up. So that's the gist of it all for me. Yeah.
Wow. Well, that was wonderful. Yeah. And we thank you so much for coming on to Pros and Politics podcast today.
My pleasure.
We are going to keep showing up. And I know you're going to keep showing up.
Absolutely.
And together we will keep showing up for our community.
Absolutely.
And these children and just everyone in general, because you are needed. Yes. What you're doing is needed. It is seen and it is valued. And so we're going to keep showing up.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Will you come back?
Absolutely, I'll come back. And we'll come back once this song hit 1 million streams. We'll come back. What song is that? That's quite a few of them. I'm loving a crazy musician, but that boxing, it just kind of prepared you for everything. If you can, the guy who started me off said, "Hey, if you can box, you can do anything." I was one of the kids that actually believed that.
And look at you now. And look at you now. That is awesome. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate you and all that you're doing, and we can't wait for you to come back.
All right, absolutely.
And thank you for tuning in today to Pros and Politics podcast, where we are polished and poised for greatness and impact. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and that you'll join us again next week. In the meantime, please like, love, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you then. Thank you.